Hello, my name is the Blue Icarian Wings. Today I'm going to be interfering with this Nerf Stampede. This is actually some work I'm doing for a guy called Brad, who's also known as Manchester Nerfer on the Brit Nerf forums. He actually runs the Manchester Nerfers Nerf War group. I'll put a link to his Facebook in the description below, so you can check that out because he runs 3 games in Manchester, so you might as well go. What am I going to be doing with this? He's asked me to upgrade this from stock to use basically a version of the Blastersmiths UK kit to upgrade the Nerf Stampede. I've previously done it to one of mine. I think due to the spring being out of stock, they're currently not doing the kit. So I'm basically going to assemble parts required to do that and sort of create my own version and do that for him. We'll start by, obviously, sort of already have taken this apart. But worth mentioning, the stock one runs with 6 FD D-cell batteries, so we take them out, we will swap the power for an LIFE. I'll talk about that later. Of note, there is 37 screws in this, which I've already taken out because you didn't need to see me do that. So I should mention at this point, when you start, you can see the sprung load attachment bits for the end strike attachment rails. There's 4 of these you need to watch out for. 1 up here, 1 there, 2 at the bottom here. It's the older style end strike ones, so they're all spring loaded. And you just need to watch them as you split the shell. Worth noting, there's a power switch on here, but all the actual electronics are on the other half of the shell. So when you first open this out, you won't have much in the way of movement. I've pre-opened this and just liberated the wire for some attachment points here and there, just to give me a bit more stuff to play with. I'm going to go over and try and explain how the internals of this actually work, but before I do that I need to obviously make life a bit easier to work with. So as a personal preference, I'm just going to go through the sort of things I do. Have a pot ready, putting bits and pieces in. Put it here because there's physically no other space. I did mention the 1, 2, 3 and 4 tactical attachment doodad point things. You can leave them in, but they're small and they're spring loaded. I like to remove loose things that may fall out, which also includes the jam door, so remove that. I'm going to put that to one side because when I start explaining stuff that'll become relevant. The eye hook, yeah, like that, you don't want to fumble and lose things. And some bits of barrel. Yeah, slides in there, pops in there, that bit downwards. Sometimes removing all these bits makes me a bit overkill, but if you take them out now, you know where they are. If they fall out later, you have no idea where they are except on the floor somewhere. Moving to the back here, these are the attachment little bolts, should be stuck in the battery tray, and we're just going to remove them. Yeah, let's have a quick talk about electronics. Battery tray comes in the back side here. You can see the springs here. We're attaching to the FD battery tray. There's your battery contact points, just slides on home there. Power comes in. This little thing here is a little ferrite. Sort of in the law states you must have to reduce electrical interference from back arcing from the motor. Anyway, the wire comes through this part of the shell. I'll trim this bit in a minute so we'll start talking about mechanicals, it's easier. Simple on-off switch. And we have a variety of safety latches in here. We've got a pair of do-ever magazine locks. They put 2 in, so that if you do actually decide to bypass it and break your hands, when you see them, they can point out you put so much effort into bypassing the locks, you knew what you were doing. There's a 3rd magazine here, where these ones check if you've actually got a magazine in there. This one checks whether it's in the right place, because this is also, back on the switch here, this is also the thing that holds and is the mag release. You see there's a switch on there. So when you've got the magazine part way in, it'll push this back. You've not got a mag sat properly, it'll disconnect that switch, puts the magazine properly, it comes back out. So yeah, do you have a magazine? Do you have a magazine in the right place lock? And you'll probably struggle to see it, but believe me, there's another one just tucked in here that is activated by this little knob here, I should say, on the door. Yeah, that just pushes in there, pushes the lock, and again, that's your jam door lock, and that checks whether it's shut. That's your motor. Goes down here, there's a bunch of plastic cogs under here. This last cog comes out here, and that drives on the little rack there that drives the plunger tube. We'll talk about that when I do the mechanicals. And the final thing here is your cycle control switch, micro switch here. And when you activate on the trigger, I'll go over these mechanicals in a bit. It pushes this lever, that pushes the switch under here, which actually the switch is this way. So the plunger on the switch is at the top here, goes down. You press this, and that starts the cycle off. And there's I'll go into the mechanicals, but just to let you know now, as this plunger tube comes forward, it holds it in place. So I'll keep it going. That gives the circuit charge where it's going. It gets to the front, does its release, pops back, and releases it. And that is basically the electronic side of it. People get a bit worried about Stampedes because they're at their hearts, they're kind of, well, they're called motorised plungers. So you've got the Springer you're used to, but you've got the electronics here. When people think electronics, they normally think flywheel rubbish, so they get a bit confused. But it's actually a lot simpler than it looks, so don't be scared of your Stampede. Side note, I'm taking this apart. I want to keep a length of this stuff here, the on-off switch. I also need to keep a length of this stuff on this side. So I need that cycle control switch to work, which is this brown one here. But we're going to undo this ferrite. As I mentioned, I'm doing all this on the fly. I've been doing 1 month ago. I'm actually going to split the mechanical part of this into 2 parts, because there's the what's actually going on, how the levers interact. That's the nitty-gritty. You'll want to know that. There's a fair bit to go through, but instead I'm going to go through the actual mechanical theory, a bit how this works and how being a Springer is a little bit different to everything else, but still pretty familiar. You see, that's your mag release there. It fits on that bit, which fits in that square hole there. And when you pull this back, pulls that back, places your mag. It's similar enough to the Springers you know, in that you've got your main spring in here, and it's kind of sandwiched between the back of the plunger tube and the back of the plunger head, so it's, call it internal. Here at the back is the back of the plunger rod, the catch, and the actual trigger catch, call it. However, the way it works is a little bit different. You'll be used to normal plungers where you pull it backwards to prime it, push it forward to load it, and then it's ready to go. This actually does it all in one method. I sort of think of it as being like a single action slam fire. It'll make sense as I start talking, hopefully. Anyway, electrical stuff happens and you start driving the whole thing forward. At this point, your main, this is the return spring, your main spring, wedged between the two, starts being compressed. This is your priming action. Put my finger there. And as it comes forward, that also brings the breech forward. Your magazine will be here, and that acts to load it. Look, you see this? This is the return spring, now fully exposed. Boing. So this basically primes and loads in one motion. When it gets to the front, there's mechanisms it interacts with. You'll hit that. Yep, and that's the spring releasing there. You can see, look, now a lot easier to move, and this spring here will push it backwards. But before I let it fully turn all the way back, you can see there, back of the plunger rod's disappeared out of the catch. And that's exactly how it works. Instead of being back prime, forward load, then fire, it primes and loads all in one motion forwards, hits the front, which simultaneously drops your dart gate and fires off the trigger gate. So you get this little mechanism here. As that goes forward, it activates a rod under here, which drives this down. So with this up, you can't do the dart gate. With this forward, whoop, dart gate can go open. Nice and simple. And this is activated on by the front of the plunger tube. Hopefully you can see it's just there. Also on the back of the plunge tube here, there's this little knob. As I pull this forward quite a lot, you can see it'll start to interact with this thing here. So that pulls forward, activates this rod, interacts with this little thing on the bottom of the trigger gate. I mean, there's nothing happening here because there's no spring load on this, but let that go forward. Plunge rod is caught, just drive this forward out of the way. Your plunger rod, here you go, look. It's now released. So yeah, so we start with the plunger caught but unprimed. Different to normal, but easy enough when you get your head around it. And that's the theory of it firing. There's a few other little bits. I'll just bring this back over for a moment. Jam door gate, green bit here. Pops through there, just a visual indicator of it's open or not. Slides in this little thing here, and you'll notice it acts on this rod here. Obviously only when it's fully all the way back. That little rod you just saw there activates on the back of this. So you've got it fully all the way back. It does that. So you open your jam door, releases the dart tooth, which is very good for obviously when you need to jam stuff. Also of note, not the bit that does electrical lock, but this bit here, that interacts with a little lever that's here, like this. And as it pulls backwards, it pushes this little lever here. Probably can't see it, but that activates on the same rod that is activated by the plunge tube that drops the gate. Pulling back your jam door activates this little lever here, activating on the same rod used by the plunge tube mechanism to drop the catch on the dart gate. And as I showed you on the other side, there's a little lever on that. The other side, if your jam door grabs, which in turn pulls that over. So that's basically how it releases your dart gate when you want to unjam it. And the one last bit to talk about is how we do cycle control, which is this funky little lever here. But before I mention that, I should probably mention its dependencies. Here's your trigger, here's a little something that moves, and here's your tie mechanism. Here's your magazine catch. So if your magazine is partially in but not fully in, activates your electrical lock, but it also functions to slide it back and block this little bit here, which means you can't pull the trigger. So you can't pull the trigger if your magazine is partially in. We'll release that. We're going to pretend I've got a magazine fully in. So now when you press on this, that catches no problem, and activates this lever, which as I mentioned, we've got a switch under there. That's your cycle control switch. So what does this do? Well, you push that back and it starts the motor off, and you've got a big sprocket under here that's got teeth on about, we'll say, half, 2/3 of it. So I'll show a picture. So I've got one external and I'll show a picture of that. You put this down to bring it on, motor turns on, grabs the rack, and it starts turning. Now you notice how here I can bring it down. Once it starts moving, this little bit here, got a round edge on it, gets caught on here. So once this thing's moving forward, nothing can stop it. It'll just keep going. This effectively locks it on, and once it gets to the front here, it will release, but the motor will keep turning until this is released by the plunger tube going all the way back. And this is where having some teeth missing on this final sprocket works, because that means the motor can keep turning without interacting with this, while this is returning backwards. This is why some of the Dark Ages and Nerf modding stuff had issues with this overrunning, because they shove 40 volts in here, so it's slinged out really fast. Set this off, and then obviously the turns big would try and return it, but the problem was it could not return it fast enough. The faster turning motor would wait till it got halfway back, recatch it, and then ram it forward again. Obviously it didn't go back far enough to load a dart. This is use the front of a dart, at which point it then start eating darts. So making people going, oh, it's firing too fast, add more return springs. Well, you can fix that by not putting too much voltage through it, to be honest. That's why the BSUK kit sticks with the LIFE, which is 9.9 volts over the stock 9 volts. Same bit far, good enough. I think that covers basically it. I think Captain Xavier did a video on the wiring of this. I'll show a link down below so you can have a look at that. Right, the next stage is to take it apart more, because I'm going to swap the spring for the 6 kilogram one. Then I suppose I'm going to start removing locks and stuff. I'm going to keep some of the locks in a separate bag for him, because the lock on the jam door, you could use that to turn a light on for night games when the jam door's open, and the switches attached to the magazines, you could use them for like an ammo counter or something, because that checks whether you got a magazine in or not. I'll start taking things apart, and you can catch up with me when I've done all of that.